Welcome to Scrolling to Death. I'm back with one of my favorite people, Titania Jordan of Bark Technologies. Hi, Titania.
Hello, Nikki. Oh my gosh. So awesome to be speaking with you. And I get to see you in real life soon. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, super excited. We get a gala night out. That's not in my normal schedule.
Definitely not my typical Tuesday.
No. Are you staying for a few days down in LA?
I will be more in like the Laguna Niguel area. That's where our CTO is located.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of speaking engagements next week across the state. So hopefully some parents will show up and we'll help keep kids safer online.
You've been doing a lot of speaking to schools too and parents, right?
Yes. Yeah. Because it's one thing to reach them via, an Instagram reel or a Facebook group post, but when you can meet these parents in person and hear their personal stories and show them, the settings and walking them through, it's just a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, and hearing their struggles so that you can inform what you guys are doing at Bark, right? And really target the solutions to the parents' problems.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's hard to keep up with all of these harms, though. So today we're talking about a really important issue that's sweeping the world, and that is sextortion, specifically financial sextortion, is on the cover of the New York Times today. We've both been studying and talking about this separately, and I think we should just compare notes so that parents are up to speed and know what to talk to their children about and how to protect them. Let's start with the basics. And then I do have an update from this morning. I was sent an internal document from Meta from several years ago related to this. So I'll share that information kind of, I think, where it comes in naturally. But let's start at the basics. So what is sextortion? Do you want to take that one or should I?
But the suspense is
I know. I'm really
Nikki.
I know.
All right. So what is sextortion?
Yeah.
It's a crime that involves adults coercing children and teenagers into sending explicit images online. I think a lot of people hear sextortion and the part of their brain shuts down. The part of the brain that thinks about like, oh, this is applicable to my family.
Yeah.
That part shuts down. They're like, no way, this doesn't apply. It absolutely applies.
Right.
It applies so much that the FBI has released multiple warnings, public warnings about this problem affecting children, good kids, our kids.
Yeah.
This is a problem and you've got to pay attention to it.
Yeah. And with financial sextortion, it's like the scammer is asking for money or they'll share the sensitive photo with the child's or teenager's friends and family and schoolmates and things like that. So where is this happening? So I'm hearing Instagram, Snapchat, and Wiz, which, do you know about Wiz?
Yep.
Tell listeners about Wiz because that was new to me. It's like a Tinder for teens, you can swipe.
Essentially, Wiz calls itself a safe space where you can let loose and meet new friends from all over the world. No. Well, you and I both can read between the lines to see what that means. It's rated 12 plus in the App Store.
Oh, no.
I can tell you no 12-year-old needs this.
No.
At all.
Okay.
Offering the ability to chat with anybody in the world, not okay.
Yeah.
And where this happens, it's not just Instagram, it's not just Snapchat, it's not just Wiz. It's any digital place where your child can communicate with another human. And so that means it could just be in text messages. It could also be in gaming. If your child plays Roblox and you don't have the chat function turned off, they can start chatting with somebody and get convinced to move to another device or platform. This can happen anywhere a child is spending time where they are allowed to message other people.
Yeah, especially if the messages disappear like Snapchat or there's end-to-end encryption like Facebook Messenger and many other platforms.
Or WhatsApp. And that end-to-end encryption, that's a whole nother episode, but that didn't used to be the case. And they moved now to have end-to-end encryption, which makes discovering it and prosecuting it even harder.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So who is this? I always can't very sarcastically, I'm saying great. Who is this happening to from what you've seen?
This is happening to children that are young enough to read. Like if they can read, this is happening to them. Or if they have access to a device that allows strangers to video chat with them and communicate to them. not only is this happening to young, naive children,
Yeah.
this is happening to children who are almost 18. And that's what's so heartbreaking to see is, for example, children like Jordan May and other children who are, 16, 17, straight A students, top of their class performers, whether it's in sports or art or dance or music. Like they're very loved, very supportive, very outgoing, very active. And for whatever reason, they don't feel like they can raise their hand and let somebody know, wait a minute, this turned down a bad path.
Yeah.
And they think that their only choice is to die by suicide.
Yeah. Well, and the scammers are targeting teenagers, specifically boys, but girls too, but teenagers that have something to lose. So that could be a sports star or someone that just told everybody they have a college scholarship that they got, or even if they have a girlfriend. Like, the scammers are targeting people that have something to lose that would pay money so that their nude photo doesn't get out. How many kids are getting targeted? So I'll share some stats here. So in 2021, the reported cases to NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, was just 139 cases of financial sextortion. And 2 years later, in 2023, that number was over 26,000. These are just reported cases.
Right.
And experts are saying that less than 10% of sextortion incidents are actually getting reported. Families don't want to let everybody know that this has happened. So the numbers are probably more like in the 250,000 or higher of Americans who've been targeted with sextortion. And that number is just spiking.
It's heartbreaking. I was reading through the latest report from NCMEC around all of this, and which platforms this is happening on, and who's reporting it and who's not, and who's even responding to NCMEC when they pursue leads from their tip line, and all of it. It's a lot.
I mean, some experts are telling me nearly every teenager will be targeted, even with that first step, which is just a friend request. And a lot of kids don't accept it. And so there, you've been targeted. And most kids don't accept it, but many do accept that friend request and then start to engage in the chat. Let's talk about who's doing the scamming. So do you want to fill listeners in a little bit?
Yes, but please support this, because you have just as much information as I do, if not more, because you're spending a lot of time in this and speaking to parents whose children have been victims of this, as well as law enforcement officials who are dealing with this.
Right.
So the majority of sextorters, I believe, are part of a ring called the Yahoo Boys, based out of Nigeria.
Yeah.
And there's a whole network. There are multiple Facebook groups that these people and organizations belong to that get together and talk about how to do this to more children.
Public Facebook groups, that have over 100,000 members that are currently live right now.
Have not been taken down.
Yep.
Yeah.
So hundreds of thousands of scammers, okay? And most of them in West Africa, Nigeria. And each of those runs a dozen or a couple dozen accounts. So it's been estimated that there's like hundreds of thousands of these scam accounts currently on Facebook and Instagram. And they do work together. So one thing that was so crazy to me is in Jordan DeMay's case, it was 6 hours from when he was first contacted to when Jordan took his life. And he was talking with, there's 4 men in a room together, in the Nigerian men. One's chatting with Jordan. One is working on like the cash transaction. One is creating imagery of all of Jordan's friends so that they can prove they know all of his friends and family. One is doing research, finding information on. So they're all working together to sextort Jordan. I mean, and this is like, these kids don't stand a chance they're working from proven scripts that have been run through hundreds of thousands of children. Okay, now is where we're going to talk about, are the platforms doing anything to protect our kids from sextortion? I haven't heard the platforms talking about sextortion until this year, when Meta announced they're going to blur nude images in direct messages. And we've talked about this before. And I thought, great, that's going to solve the problem. The kid won't be able to send a nude and they can't get sextorted. That is a solution. But can you update listeners on what actually happens once the image is blurred?
Yeah. So April 11th, 2024, Meta made a blog post titled New Tools to Help Protect Against Sextortion and Intimate Image Abuse. Now, the problem is that they will blur the photo, but you can still view the photo. It still gives you the opportunity to view it, to send it. It's like they're giving you a bit of a speed bump to try to slow you down, but it's not stopping the vehicle of distribution of CSAM, child sexual abuse material.
Right.
And if they have the ability to detect a nude on a child's account, how is that even allowed? Why are we even allowing this? Why are we not shutting it down?
I don't understand, because that is a solution. And there are many solutions that they could have employed over the last few years. And they're acting like they're just realizing that this is happening. And so here's what I found out today. So a man who used to work in a contractor role for Meta in 2018, he shared with me an internal document called a safety escalation tracker. And it's like a 60-something page document of incidents and then what they did with the incident. This is from 2018, and it has 2 months of incidents. And of the 807 entries, sextortion is mentioned 230 times in the document. In 2018, financial sextortion is mentioned, and Nigeria is mentioned. In 2018, in Meta's internal documents, they were already reporting internally that sextortion was happening. Yet in the last 5 years, they have done nothing meaningful to protect our children from sextortion.
If I was the parent of a child that had been affected by this, God help me if I came across anybody who had anything to do with not making that platform safer. I mean, honestly, it's unconscionable. They have this whole long blog post of all the things they're working on. It's not that hard.
No.
You read Paul Rafile's 6 tips that he posted on LinkedIn recently. Like, those are things that they can do today.
Right. And so Meta hired Paul Rafile to help them with their sextortion problem. And then Paul did a webinar the week before he was supposed to start at Meta. And he mentioned how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of fake profiles there are on Facebook and Instagram that are exploiting children for financial sextortion. And within minutes or about an hour after this webinar, they rescinded the offer. Meta rescinded the offer for Paul. It's like, why would you not hire the guy that knows where all the bad guys are on your platform?
And why are more people not talking about this? Like, I mean, again, like there's only so much influence I have, right? But certainly if you're the president, do something. This is not okay.
Yeah. So President Biden did just pass the Report Act. Yeah. So headline, Biden signs bipartisan law targeting child sextortion online. And so the Report Act will modernize and streamline how CSAM is stored and reported to NCMEC. So there will now be requirements and fines for the platforms to fail if they fail to report these cases.
And they have to hold on to the evidence longer.
Yes,
so like
right.
I applaud, like I am so thrilled that the Report Act was passed.
Right.
It's also ridiculous that it was just passed. How was this not, like, really? It's just not okay. It's just not okay. None of this is okay.
Yeah.
And the sooner we can raise awareness, contact our local legislators, and strongly encourage them to keep fighting for what's right for our kids. Like, we can't stop. And if we don't, who else will? Nobody will.
No, these companies are never going to see our children as human beings. They're going to see them as dollar signs in their profit center. And that's it. We can't expect them to do the right thing. Like, the right thing would be to protect our children from sextortion 5 years ago by making any number of changes. It's so infuriating that they never do the right thing. And they do PR campaigns to make it seem like they're doing the right thing. But when you read in the fine print, they're not doing anything at all.
100%. 100%. I know you saw that internal document today, and that's what's got you fired up. I today got some notification on Snapchat, opened it up, and Snapchat is letting me know that I can have a public profile to let people, like, follow me publicly. I'm scrolling to it now so I can read it verbatim, but like, introducing your public profile, show off your best snaps, grow your audience, reach more people, get deeper insights. Okay. But Snapchat, you have billboards across the nation saying you're not social media. Who? What? What?
I know. They're so desperate. Every time I open it, I have a test account. It's turn on notifications, add all these people. It like is really overtly prompting you to get your profile public, connect with as many people as possible, get alerts turned on. Like, why are we encouraging kids to turn on notifications?
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, right. Back to sextortion.
Yeah, but we've concluded that these platforms don't have our kids' best interest at heart. They are not looking out for our kids' safety. So we have to prepare our kids if we decide to let them on social media. We have to prepare them for threats like sextortion. I am encouraging all parents to listen to my interview with Paul Raphael, listen to my interview with John DeMay about Jordan's story. A mom just reached out to me saying she had her 14-year-old son listen to both of these in order to prepare him. And it's, if kids are old enough to be on social media, they're old enough to hear these stories, and they need to.
100%.
Any other tips if your kids are going to be on social media? What do you need to tell them related to sextortion?
Yes. Before you let your child have access to a device that can connect to the internet or the world, whether it's cell signal or Wi-Fi, please let them know that there's nothing they can ever do that can separate them from your unconditional love, including if they take a photo, send a photo, receive a photo that they might be embarrassed of. That is never, ever, ever, ever a reason to take their life.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Your hope is that they're never involved in any of that. But you also know that kids are doing this, and it's impacting kids, and kids have died because of this, and you do not want it to be your child. And so having those candid conversations with them, letting them know that you know what's up and that you're a safe place and you'll figure it out together is critical. It's literally life-saving.
Yeah. Thank you for leading with that. That's most important. If you do this, if you make this mistake, I'll handle it. I'll fix it. It's going to be okay. Hope is not lost. And then follow on with, this could happen to you, so it's best not to add strangers online and not to take nude images or share them online. But if your child does do this and you tell them you know what to do, this is what you need to do. The kid should not pay money. They need to block the profile, report it, but also then change their username, or better yet, deactivate your account for a couple of weeks. Even if you just change your username, they can still find you through another account. They'll set up a new account, or they have dozens of accounts already, and they'll find you a different way. So Paul Raphael recommended deactivate your account for a couple of weeks, and by then they've moved on to another victim, which is sad in itself. And then if your child is a minor, you go to ncmec.org to their cyber tip line and report the incident. Even if a nude image was not shared or taken, even if it's just the beginning of a sextortion attempt, please report it so that they have accurate numbers.
Yeah, there's one other thing I would add there. You mentioned during the process, to block them.
Yeah.
But before you block them, take screenshots, document everything. Because once you block them, you might not be able to access that, and then the evidence is lost.
Yeah, right. Okay, so sextortion is very scary, and we want to protect our kids from this happening. And luckily, we have tools like the Bark phone and the Bark parental control app to help us out. So can you tell listeners how Bark can help prevent and alert parents to sextortion scams?
Absolutely, yeah. If you have the Bark phone, it's the best first phone for kids. The Bark phone doesn't allow children to even take nude photos or videos, whereas, an iPhone does.
Right.
So the Bark phone can prevent that sort of image or media from even existing. The Bark phone and the Bark app can alert you to a variety of things, including the sending or receiving of inappropriate photos, videos, material, also the conversations, the grooming conversations, the threatening conversations, when it starts to involve finances. Obviously, anything involving suicidal ideation, like go kill yourself, you should just kill yourself, etc. Like, there are multiple, I would say, safety nets that come with having the Bark phone or the Bark app installed that can alert you that this sort of thing is happening.
Yeah.
So you don't end up in this horrific situation.
Yeah. Just the peace of mind with the Bark phone not allowing them to take the nude image. Like, it doesn't get saved. They can try. It doesn't get saved.
Yeah.
That just fully protects them from any of this ever happening to them. Can all phones do this? Why should minors be able to take nude images of themselves and then share them online.
Right? Right? I would love for you to interview somebody from Apple, and I would love for them to answer that, because they have communication safety, which, like Instagram, will blur it, but still allow the child to send it, view it, receive it, etc. So it's like not helpful.
Kids shouldn't even be allowed to have an iPhone. I'm sorry.
No.
I'll say it.
No. I mean, we you and I both agree on that.
Yeah.
But
I don't want to judge anybody. You know, I know parents are like, I'm an Apple family, so I have to get my kid an iPhone. What do you say when people say that to you?
Yeah, you don't. You absolutely don't. I wish I didn't. You know, the Bark phone didn't exist when my son was younger. But wow, if it did, we could have avoided a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma. Like, goodness gracious, iPhones are not good. They're not the best first phone for kids. They're just not.
Yeah. Okay. So I hope that listeners will seriously consider the Bark phone, or at least the Bark parental control app for the iPhone or Android that they're using for their child. It's important that parents get educated on the online harms, and sextortion right now is exploding. And so these conversations are very important. Parents, please tell all your friends about this topic, because like we said, it likely will come your child's way if they're online. So, Titania, thank you so much for having this conversation with me and for comparing notes and always doing everything you can to help parents protect their children. So thank you so much, and to the team at Bark as well.
Thank you, Nikki. Your podcast, your video content, your posts are so helpful. And like our tech, I believe your content is helping to save lives. So keep it up.
Thank you, Titania.